everyone, welcome to a new episode of High Altitude Motorsports. Today, something super exciting is in our shop. We got the 2020 Chevy Duramax 2500. As you can see, it already has aftermarket wheels with stock suspension. Well, today we are going to fix the rubbing issue by doing a KRYPTONITE leveling kit. It's got the full bells and whistles and their full steering. So we're gonna walk you step by step in how to do everything on your new Duramax. This will also apply the same techniques to 2011 and all the way up to current Duramaxes. All right, so we got the truck on the rack and it's supported. The first thing you want to do on these Duramaxes is take the tension off of the torsion bar. And to do that, I'm going to take a 21 socket and take off the torsion bar bolts. And then what I do is I set everything the side that it goes to on the lift arm. All right, so now that we have gotten the tension off of our torsion bar, we are going to start disassembling the front end. There's really no right or wrong way as far as disassembling everything. We are doing upper control arms on this truck. If you guys have a Duramax that's brand new, it has these plastic alignment keepers. We're not gonna use because we're gonna be realigning it. To take the upper control arm off, you need to take these out. So what I do, get myself a pry bar and a hammer, and then just pop these out, and then they just come out. And then you can throw them away, and if you want, you can get new ones. I don't use them. I don't get new ones, and I've never had an issue with alignments. You always want to alternate, if you can, side to side, because I already have these tools in my hand. So if I go to the next side and do that step, you're doing a check and balance with yourself and also being more efficient. So go on to this side and do that, and we'll be right back over to this side. All right guys, so for all of our Duramax kits, we use KRYPTONITE products. We think that they have just the absolute best products on the market for Duramaxes. So on this truck, we're doing the leveling system, Fox shocks, and then the ultimate steering. We have their CenterLink steering bar, their tie rod ends, their upper control arms. This is their leveling keys, their shock extenders. This is a idler arm brace. This is their idler arm. And then they have their Pitman arm and idler arm. And this is, I mean, this is made out of billet aluminum. So all their products really keep these trucks front end completely just tightened and torqued together. So for these bushings, they're a polyurethane bushing, and you want to use silicone grease in it. You don't want to use like a bearing grease or something like that, because it will corrode these bushings.
Lube up good, brother. I can already see in the comments, oh man, Nick knows how to lube up that shaft real good. Tap. Oh, there we go. Now you can.
Now this upper ball joint, you can take the ball joint and go through the upper control arm, but you can also mount it underneath the control arm. Most people don't know this. If you are going to ride the truck with the keys not super cranked, you'll run it like this. And then if you're going to run the keys cranked, you're gonna run it underneath. This just adds a little bit more droop for the suspension. Since we're running a big tire on here, we're gonna crank the keys up a little bit. We're gonna run it on the bottom side of the upper control arm. Put our bolts through, washer, nut, and then we're gonna tighten all this stuff down, torque it all to spec, and then be ready to put in the truck.
Ride with me if you ride with me,
we're noticing that there's 2 wires here now before we droop the suspension. One is going to be your ABS, and then the other one looks like a brake sensor. So when your pads start getting dull, it will sense. This is something that you see in like foreign cars like BMWs and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a cool, interesting new feature. So right now what we're going to do is get the lines kind of freed up a little bit so we can take out our upper control arm, and while we're doing this we'll also replace the shocks, and then we'll kind of get everything tightened and kind of walk you through that process. So to get some of these lines off, they have these clips, so you can use a Christmas tree puller, but 9 times out of 10 you'll probably break that Christmas tree clip. So if you just come into the bottom of this, pop it off, boom, free. Same with all these. So we're going to do all that to the front suspension. So we're going to take our shock out first and do this with a 21mm socket and a 21mm wrench. And the reason you want to take your shock out, you don't necessarily have to, but it does make things easier when you are getting your cam bolt out. Your cam bolt is going to hit your shock. If you adjust the cam, you can get it through. It's a little bit easier just taking the shock, and since we're already replacing it, it's a no-brainer. There's 2 plastic clips. We pop those off with just like a screwdriver and undo our shocks, and then we'll start working on the upper arms.
550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me. That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet.
Now that we have gotten our shock out, we're going to take our lower ball joint nut out. This is a 18mm. Now a little trick that we use when you're taking out this upper ball joint, to kind of keep everything in place, we'll use a bungee cord and bungee cord the knuckle to the frame. And what this does is it allows the knuckle to stay up and the CV not to separate. As soon as this comes off, it's gonna pop a little bit. Shouldn't be too bad. Boom, just like that. You can see our bungee cord's doing what it is intended to do. Keep that upper arm secure. Now, our upper arm is free, so we're gonna take out our 2 cam bolts. When you're removing these cam bolts, you always wanna go on the side of the nut. It depends on the cam bolt, but for the Duramax, it's the nut side. When you're taking these out, you want to be careful not to hit this pin. This is for alignment, and they do come out pretty easily. And they are pretty tight, so we're double wrenching it. And this is a little trick. Boom, shakalaka. Go in here, loosen it up. The other thing you want to do is pay attention to your cam position. These are always going to be facing this way. They put this upper control arm bolt right where the brake line is and where these are. Now that we've gotten our upper control arm bolts out, we can slide our upper arm out and it comes out just like this. When you're doing the KRYPTONITE kit, you want to make sure that the logo is facing towards the front of the vehicle. If for some reason it doesn't slide in, what we'll do is we'll take a hammer and just kind of knock these out. Spread the pockets out a little bit. So all you do is just give it a little tap. So now that we got this bolt in, put our cam the same way that it came out, we can go ahead and put a jack under here.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Hey,
slide this in.
I ain't never met a limitation.
We're gonna use 1 washer. Sometimes if you're using an aftermarket knuckle, you could need no washers, you could need 2 washers. It just depends. What you're kind of doing is spacing it out so the cotter pin and castle nut line up. So we got this kind of snugged up. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna tighten it to 50 foot-pounds. And this is done with a 22mm socket. We need to get our cotter pin aligned. So we're gonna go just a little bit over. Put that through the hole.
to shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding out of line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy.
So we got our upper control arm cam bolts just snugged up. We're gonna go back to alignment. Now what we can start doing is getting all of our ABS line, brake line, all that kind of stuff back to its position. We'll throw in the front shock and then we can put in the torsion keys. All right, guys. We're back to work after a lunch break. So we're gonna put our Foxy. This is a Foxy shock. And yeah, we're gonna use our shock extenders since we're gonna be cranking up the front suspension. This is pretty straightforward. Shock extenders go up top, bolts, boom, OEM bolt. Find whichever way looks the best. It only takes like 20 minutes to change it, so if we need to revert back to just one spacer, then that's fine.
Got the energy to win in my I'm feeling great. Got a date with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block with plain clothes.
All right, guys, so we are gonna take the keepers out of the torsion bars. And to do that, you're gonna wanna get this torsion bar tool. Part number is 543645. This kit works really well. I know that some people are having issues on the Duramaxes. So all you do is there's a little nipple right here. Put this up here, slide it in, and then there's a hole that nipple goes in. You tighten it up onto the torsion key and pull these key keepers out. Once we do that, then we're gonna push our torsion keys forward, put our new keys in, put tension on our torsion bars, and then the leveling system's done. Stock key. Stock key. Aftermarket keys. Boom. Now that we've put our new torsion keys in, we're gonna put our tool back in. Then once we got the pressure, we can put our keeper in. This side's kind of a tricky one because of the
Oh yeah, look, the exhaust.
exhaust is in our way. Keeper in the hole. Done. Now, take our bolts. And a good rule of thumb is to go about flat with the torsion bar cross member. But we're gonna have to set the ride height when we set it on the ground and kind of figure out how high we can go with good up and down travel. Since it's on the rack, we'll show you guys what to look for on that. This is your up travel. So if you can imagine this upper arm traveling up, it's gonna hit this bump stop. So that's your up travel. So you wanna see what the distance between your lower control arm and your bump stop is. For your down travel, you're looking at your upper arm. Your upper arm down travel is hitting this. So right now, since our cams were loose and everything else, and it's in the air, we're completely maxed out. Our upper arm's hitting this. And that's why we have no down travel and a ton of up travel. Oh. What?
Nothing.
If you are just doing a leveling kit on your truck, that is going to wrap up that portion of the video. But we are doing the ultimate steering from KRYPTONITE as well. So we're gonna start getting into that. And Nick is just finishing up the rear shocks right now.
Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right?
Yeah.
Ride with me if you ride ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550.
Front is 100% done as far as the leveling kit. We got the upper arms in, the shocks in, the new torsion keys, and then the rear Fox shocks in. So now we are going to move on to the ultimate steering. So the first thing we're going to do is take off these two skid plates, and these are done with a 15mm socket. So we're going to drop this sway bar to get out of our way, to get to our Pitman arm and idler arm nut. And then we're also going to be welding on the frame, so just make a little bit ease. So we're going to take these 10 mils out. I like this. This is new. It's got like a sway bar keeper. This little thing. Yeah. So when you're tightening and loosening it, it kind of just stays. But yes. Okay, we got that out of the way. We're gonna get the steering out and do that with a 21mm and an air. Disconnect your tie rod end, and then this is connected to your Pitman arm and your idler arm. Those are 24s. So now that we have all that disconnected, they have a tool that's kind of like a puller, but honestly, most of the time with just a little bit of a tap of the hammer, your ball joints will come free. Just like that. And then we got, this one we'll use a pickle fork. So just take your pickle fork, you know, stick it right in the hole, right like that. Just pickle her in. Pop her free. Now that we've got everything free, come in here, take everything that's holding her on, drop this down, just like a that. Then, be able to take our steering out, just like that. So, on a Chevy, you have your center link and your two tie rod ends. And you have your idler arm, which is this. And then your idler bracket, which it connects to. And this, all this is doing is what's named idling. And it's following your Pitman arm. And your Pitman arm is connected to your gearbox. Gearbox goes up to your steering wheel. So when you turn, this is moving, this Pitman arm. And it's idling on this side, so everything moves together. Relatively simple. So the torque spec for these are going to be 80 foot-pounds. Now that we've gotten that, we want to try to match up as close as we can to our OEM alignment. Now obviously this isn't perfect. Still going to have to go get an alignment, but should put us close. We are going up with the truck, so that's obviously going to change our steering quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out the idler arm and the idler bracket. And to do this, you're going to use a ratchet with an 18 and a 24mm wrench. I had a freaking tight, there we go. Out with the old, in with the better. So you guys don't need to pull the nut off of the idler arm. This one, separate this and then pull the bracket. You can just do it all together. All right guys, so now that we've gotten that off, we're gonna get our Pitman arm nut off. You wanna have this bolted into the truck still, and all I have is a big crescent wrench. And just like an impact, you're gonna hit it with a hammer and this should break it free. And then once you've broken it free, we're just gonna walk this nut and get it off. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 3 bolts holding our gearbox in off. These look to be a 24 millimeter. And I'm just gonna have my hand under the gearbox. The lower brace of the frame will hold the gearbox to stabilize it. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, holding it, then you can put a jack underneath it. All right guys, so we are using our snap-on Pitman arm puller. It is part number 1188. If you guys are doing any sort of suspension work on a regular, I would highly recommend this Pitman arm. It's low profile and it's got a bunch of torque, so it can pop these Pitman arms off, and it works absolutely amazing every single time. So we're gonna get this all situated. We're gonna pull this Pitman arm off, and then we're gonna put in our new Pitman arm.
That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right?
You want to put some red Loctite on it?
Ay, 12 can't really stop. So I'm still pushing like a mosh pit. Ice dripping, think I'm hot. In a yellow bucket with the mop stick. I've been just
so you're gonna want to go ahead and tighten your Pitman arm nut to 273 foot-pounds. And if you can, you're gonna use a crow's foot and a torque wrench, and you're gonna get that tight to 273. Then we're gonna tighten up these to 203 foot-pounds. Oh my goodness. Ooh. Okay, so what you're gonna wanna do is put this into a vise. Put on this is your KRYPTONITE idler arm bracket, and then your idler arm. We're gonna take this, we're gonna put this on here, and you wanna make sure to torque this to specification. You don't want it too tight because these threads will rip. Now we're gonna take our 28 millimeter socket, and we're gonna torque this nut down to 100 foot-pounds. Boom, just like that, torqued up. This thing's ready to go in. We're gonna take this, we're going to work our way in. Just like that, easy peasy, a lemon, a squeezy. We are gonna weld this bracket on, and it looks like we're gonna have to move our brake line out of the way a little bit. There it is. This is gonna sit right about here. So I'm gonna take this, find my weld surfaces. So now what we're gonna do is just scrape this undercoating off in the area that we will be welding in. And get everything put together. So now that we got our brace in, our frame's cleaned, we're gonna get these two bolts tightened. We're gonna wrap these lines, disconnect the negatives on our batteries, and then we're gonna do a nice bead down here, and then we'll get two penetrating welds in there. We have disconnected the negatives of the batteries, and we are going to weld in this idler brace.
So I'm still pushing like a mosh pit. Ice dripping, think I'm hot. In a yellow bucket with the mop stick. I've been jugging jams like wholesale. Everything must go sell. Hitting with the old well, need 100 milli on the low scale. On my worst night, I'm the best. Wouldn't mess with you, couldn't cap to him. Homie spotted me like 700, brought 1100 right back to him. If I can't do it, then it ain't real. I just make dollars, I don't make deals. I've been going hard in the paint, still blowing kush clouds till I can't feel like. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like. 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right?
Guys, so we torqued these to 80 foot-pounds, and then these to 100 foot-pounds. So our steering is done besides alignment. There, you hold that.
Oh man, don't look at it.
All right, so we welded that and we put an undercoating on it, and now we are going to get this line instead because that one's too So we got this welded and undercoated. Now what we're gonna do is put our sway bar and tighten it back up. Pretty self-explanatory. We got the 2 10s on each side, making it 4, and then we have these 2 nuts right here, and we're gonna tighten this up, torque it spec. I really like this captured design. We're at 9 1/4. We're at 12. Leave it. All right, guys. So we finished up the install of our suspension kit. The last step is to adjust the ride height. Just doing that dropped us over 1/2 inch. So we're gonna lower this down just a little bit. We finished Jordan's truck, and now we are just wrapping up the alignment. We've adjusted the cams to get our camber and caster. Now we're just finishing up with our toe set. I'm gonna check our camber and caster, do a sweep really quick after we adjust the toe, just to make sure, because the toe does affect camber and caster just slightly. So our toe is pretty close, but we're just finishing up this toe setting, and then we're gonna sweep the caster and get a good alignment on this. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of High Altitude Motorsports. Make sure to smash the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up on this video. This was a full tutorial, 2020 Chevy Duramax. If you guys have any questions, drop a comment below. We'll try to answer them as quickly as possible, and we'll see you in the next episode.